Queen LRA stood on the balcony of her palace, watching the twin suns set over Valoria Prime. The crystalline towers of her capital city reflected the orange and purple light, creating a display that had inspired poets for thousands of years, yet tonight she barely noticed the beauty. Her mind was occupied with thoughts of her husband. Tywin was in the gardens below, kneeling beside a bed of silver flowers that only bloomed at twilight. He wore simple clothes, nothing like the formal robes her advisors insisted a royal consort should wear. His dark hair fell across his forehead as he carefully tended to each plant, speaking softly to them in that gentle way of his. LRA smiled despite her worries. 2 years of marriage, and he still surprised her with his kindness. The Vin court had not understood her choice when she announced her engagement to a human from the distant planet Earth. The nobles had been shocked, some had been angry. Prince Dorian, her cousin, had argued for weeks that she should marry within the Empire. Commander Voss had run security checks that lasted months. Ambassador Hanna from Earth had assured everyone that Tywin was exactly what he appeared to be, a cultural ace with a gift for diplomacy and a love for art. LRA had met him at Confluence Station during trade negotiations, while other diplomats had postured and demanded attention. Tywin had sat quietly in the corner, sketching the station's architecture in a small notebook. When she asked to see his drawings, he had blushed and shown her with shy pride. They had talked for hours about art, music, and the simple beauty of growing things. He never tried to impress her with grand gestures or political maneuvering. He was just himself. That honesty had won her heart in a court full of people who wanted something from her. Tywin wanted nothing except her company. When she asked about his life on Earth, he spoke vaguely of administrative work that had taken him across many cities. He said he had retired early because he wanted a quieter life. He wanted to create things instead of managing them. LRA had understood that desire perfectly. Now he lived in her palace, managing cultural exchanges between the Vin Empire and Earth. He organized art exhibitions and music festivals. He maintained the royal gardens with his own hands, refusing to let servants do all the work. He supported Elra's rule by being a steady presence, offering quiet advice when she asked for it, and staying silent when she needed space to think. The court treated him with polite condescension. To them, he was a curiosity, a primitive human who had somehow charmed their queen. They smiled at him during formal dinners and forgot about him immediately after. Commander Voss watched him with suspicious eyes, but had found nothing wrong. In 2 years of observation, Tywin was exactly what he claimed to be, a modest man who wanted a peaceful life. Elra's assistant, a young Vin named Kessa, approached the balcony with hesitant steps. Your Majesty, the council requests your immediate presence. There is urgent news. Queen felt her heart sink. Urgent news was never good. She took one last look at Tywin in the garden, memorizing the peaceful scene, then followed Kessa to the council chambers. The room was filled with her most trusted advisors. Commander Voss stood at attention, his silver uniform perfectly pressed. Prince Dorian lounged in his seat with false casualness. The military commanders looked grim. Ambassador Hanna sat in the corner, her human face unreadable. What has happened? LRA asked, taking her place at the head of the table. Voss activated. A holographic display, it showed the border regions of the Vin Empire, where their territory met the Krell Dominion. Red markers indicated military buildup. The Krell have mobilized their fleet. Your Majesty, our intelligence suggests they are preparing for war. On what grounds? LRA demanded. We have non-aggression treaty with them. They claim we violated their trade agreements, Prince Dorian said, examining his clause with exaggerated boredom. They say we owe them reparations. It is nonsense, of course, but they are looking for an excuse. One of the military commanders, an elderly Vin named General Kane, spoke up. We have just received their ultimatum. The Krell demand complete surrender of our outer colonies and tribute payments for the next century. If we refuse, they will consider it an act of war. The room fell silent. The Krell Dominion was known for its ruthless military and aggressive expansion. They had conquered dozens of smaller civilizations. The Vin Empire was powerful, but it had enjoyed peace for 3 generations. Their military was well equipped but untested. How long do we have? LRA asked. They gave us 1 standard week to respond, Voss said. After that they will begin their assault. This is madness, LRA said, her voice shaking with anger. We have done nothing to provoke them. We, the Krell, do not need provocation. General Kane said sadly. They see weakness and they attack. Our peace has made us soft in their eyes. Prince Dorian leaned forward. Perhaps we should consider their terms. Losing some colonies is better than losing everything in a war we cannot win. You would have us surrender without fighting, Voss snapped. I would have us survive, Dorian replied smoothly. Council erupted into arguments. LRA listened to them shout at each other, feeling the weight of leadership pressing down on her shoulders. Millions of lives depended on the decision she would make. She thought of Tywin in the garden tending his flowers, unaware that their peaceful life was about to shatter. We will not surrender, she said finally, her voice cutting through the noise. Prepare our defenses. Send word to our allies. We will meet this threat with strength. The council nodded and began discussing military preparations. LRA noticed Ambassador Hanna watching her with an odd expression, something like sympathy mixed with calculation. But before she could ask about it, the meeting moved forward and the moment passed. Later that night, LRA returned to her chambers to find Tywin waiting for her. He had prepared tea and placed fresh flowers on her desk. When he saw her expression, he immediately stood and embraced her. What troubles you? He asked softly. She told him everything, the Krell ultimatum, the threat of war, her fear that she was not strong enough to protect her people. He listened without interrupting, his arms steady around her. You are stronger than you know, he said when she finished. Your people are fortunate to have a leader who cares so deeply about them. I wish I had your peace, LRA whispered. Nothing ever seems to disturb you. Tywin was quiet for a long moment. I have seen disturbance enough for several lifetimes. I came here seeking calm, but if calm is no longer possible, then I will do what must be done. LRA did not understand what he meant, but his presence comforted her. They sat together in silence, drinking tea while outside the palace, the Vin Empire prepared for war. The week passed too quickly. The Vin military worked day and night to prepare defenses, but everyone knew they were not ready. Commander Voss drilled the palace guard until they moved like a single organism. General Kane coordinated with fleet commanders across the empire. Queen LRA barely slept, attending meeting after meeting as her advisors debated strategy. Taiwan attended these meetings at LRA's request. He sat quietly in the corner, listening to the arguments and occasionally making notes. In his small notebook, the military commanders ignored him completely. Prince Dorian made snide comments about letting civilians hear classified information. Even Ambassador Hana seemed uncomfortable with his presence, though. She said nothing, only Commander Voss openly objected. Your Majesty, with respect, why is the human present at military briefings? He has no security clearance for this information. LRALT GT's eyes flashed with anger. He is my consort and I trust him completely. That is all the clearance required. Voss bowed stiffly and said nothing more, but his disapproval was clear. Taiwan met the commander's suspicious gaze with calm indifference, then returned his attention to his notebook. On the 8th day, the Krellel attacked. Their fleet emerged from hyperspace at the border colony of Taros Ith. The Vin defenders fought bravely, but they were overwhelmed within hours. The Krell warships tore through shields and armor with terrible efficiency. By nightfall, Taros Ith had fallen, and 3,000 Vin soldiers were dead. The news hit the palace like a physical blow. LRA watched the battle reports with numb horror. She had known war would be terrible, but seeing the casualty numbers made it real. In a way that abstracts could not. These were her people, their deaths were her responsibility. Warlord Threx, the supreme commander of the Krell Armada, sent a mocking message after the battle. His reptilian face filled the display screens across Valoria Prime. Your defenses are pathetic. Surrender now, and I will allow your people to live as slaves. Resist further, and I will turn your worlds to ash. Prince Dorian used the message to renew his calls for surrender. We have lost already, why sacrifice more? Lives for pride, because free people do not kneel to tyrants. LRA said coldly. We will fight. The council worked through the night, repositioning fleets and reinforcing key systems. Taiwan sat in his usual corner, watching and listening. At one point he quietly suggested moving supply ships to the Cathara system rather than keeping them at the front lines. General Kane dismissed the idea without consideration. We need supplies where the fighting will be, not 3 systems away. Taiwan nodded and said nothing more. LRA noticed that he drew a small star next to that entry in his notebook. 2 days later, the Krellel attacked the Cathara system. They bypassed the reinforced front lines completely, striking at the vulnerable supply depot. Without Taiwan's suggestion being followed, the Vin lost billions of credits worth of equipment and ammunition. General Kane looked ill when he realized the human had predicted the enemy's strategy. Perhaps we should listen more carefully to your consort, Voss said quietly to the Queen. There was no mockery in his voice now, but by then it was too late. The Krellel were advancing on 3 fronts. The Vin fleet was being pushed back system by system. Warlord Threx proved to be a brilliant strategist, anticipating every move the Vin made. He seemed to know exactly where to strike for maximum damage with minimum risk. LRA felt herself drowning in decisions and consequences. Every choice cost lives, every strategy failed, she began to doubt her ability to lead. Late at night alone with Taewon in their chambers, she finally broke down. I am failing them, she said, tears streaming down her face. Every day more of my people die because I do not know how to stop this. Taewon held her close, stroking her silver hair. You are doing everything possible. With the resources you have, it is not enough. I am not enough. She pulled back to look at him. How do you stay so calm? The empire is burning, and you act as if nothing is wrong. I stay calm because panic helps no one, he said, and I act this way because I believe there is still hope. What hope? We are losing this war. Taewon was quiet for a long moment. His eyes, usually so gentle, took on a distant quality. I think it is time I made some calls back home. Quote, LRA blinked in confusion. Earth, what can Earth do? You are a cultural attaché, not a military commander. No offense, but your planet is barely part of galactic civilization. You have only had faster than light travel for 20 years, that is true. Taewon agreed, but humanity has other qualities that might prove useful. He pulled out his communicator, not the standard device everyone carried, but a different one that LRA had never seen before. It was black and unmarked with military-grade encryption indicators blinking along its edge. What is that? She asked. Something I hoped I would never need again, he said softly. He activated the device and spoke clearly into it. Authorization code Park T-177. Delta requesting secure line to Terran Defense Coalition Headquarters. LRA stared at him. The Terran Defense Coalition was Earth's military command structure. Why would a cultural attaché have direct access to them? Why would he have an authorization code at all, let alone one that bypassed normal diplomatic channels? The communicator connected almost immediately. A woman's voice answered, speaking in rapid English. Colonel Park, we have been expecting your call. What are your orders, Colonel? LRA felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Taewon glanced at her, and she saw something in his eyes she had never seen before. It was not coldness exactly, but a kind of sharp focus that transformed his entire presence. I need a full briefing on the Krell Dominion, everything we have on their military capabilities, fleet composition, and command structure. And I need it sent to my secure terminal within the hour. Understood, Colonel. Anything else? Yes, inform Admiral Yuna that I may be requesting fleet support soon. Have her prepare the expeditionary force for possible deployment. Acknowledged. Earth stands ready, sir. The connection ended. Taewon sat down the communicator and looked at his wife. LRA stared back at him, 100 questions fighting to escape her lips. I think, Taewon said quietly, that we need to have a conversation, and I think I need to call a meeting with your War Council. Who are you? LRA whispered. I'm exactly who I said I am, Taewon replied. A man who wanted peace and quiet, a man who loves gardens and art, a man who loves you. He paused. But I am also someone I tried very hard to leave behind, someone I became again the moment I saw your people suffering. He stood and offered her his hand. Come. It is time your commanders learned what humanity can do when we protect those we love. LRA took his hand, her mind reeling. Tomorrow she thought her life would change forever. Tomorrow she would learn the truth about the modest man she had married, but tonight she simply held his hand and tried to prepare herself for Whatever revelation was coming, the war. Council assembled at dawn. Commander Voss arrived first, as always his uniform perfect despite the lack of sleep. General Kane came next, looking older than his years. Prince Dorian sauntered in late, making a show of his boredom. Ambassador Hana entered quietly and took her usual seat in the corner. She met Taiwan's eyes as he entered with the Queen, and something passed between them, a nod of acknowledgement, a silent conversation that LRA did not understand. Why have we been summoned at this hour? Prince Dorian asked. Has the Krello offered surrender terms? No, LRA said, taking her seat. My consort has requested this meeting. He has information that may change our situation. Several council members exchanged glances. Voss frowned. Your Majesty, with respect, what information could a civilian possibly have that our intelligence services lacked? Taiwan stood. He had changed clothes since last night. Instead of his usual simple attire, he wore dark pants and a fitted black shirt. On his collar was a small pin that LRA had never seen before, the symbol of Earth's military eagle clutching a shield and lightning bolt. He looked different somehow, taller, more solid. His gentle demeanor had shifted into something harder. Commander Voss raised a fair question, Taiwan said. His voice was calm but carried an authority that made everyone sit straighter. I have been less than honest about my background. For that I apologize, but circumstances now require full disclosure. He activated the holographic display at the center of the table. An image appeared, a younger Taiwan in military dress uniform, his chest covered in medals and combinations. The text below identified him as Colonel Park, Taiwan Special Operations Division, Terran Defense Coalition. The room erupted. Voss stood so quickly his chair fell over. Prince Dorian actually stopped lounging and sat forward. General Kane's eyes went wide. Only Ambassador Hana remained still, watching the reactions with clinical interest. You are military, LRA said, her voice barely above a whisper. You have been military this entire time. I was military, Taiwan corrected. I retired 3 years ago and took a position in the cultural exchange program. Everything I told you about wanting a quieter life was true. I spent 15 years in combat operations. I was tired of war. I wanted peace. I wanted you, but you lied about who you were, LRA said. She felt betrayed and confused and angry all at once. I simplified my past, Taiwan said. I never claimed to be something I was not. I simply did not mention what I used to be. Would you have married me if you knew I was a soldier? LRA opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. She did not know. The honest truth was that she might not have. She had wanted peace as much as he had. She had not wanted a warrior husband who might glorify violence. This is irrelevant, Voss interrupted. You were a soldier, so what? Earth is barely a space-faring civilization. Your military experience means nothing against the Krello. Taiwan smiled, but it was not his usual warm smile. This one was cold and sharp. Commander, pull up the files on the siege of Proxima Station. Voss frowned, but complied. The display showed a battle report from 8 years ago. A group called the Corps of Raiders had taken control of Proxima Station, a major trade hub. They had held 3,000 hostages and demanded ransom from a dozen governments. The standoff lasted 2 weeks. before Earth forces intervened. I remember this, General Kane said. Humans resolved it without firing a shot. We were all impressed by their diplomatic solution. It was not diplomacy, Taiwan said quietly. It was a special operations insertion. My team infiltrated the station through the waste recycling system. We disabled their communications, identified all hostile positions, and neutralized 37 armed raiders in under 4 minutes. 0 hostage casualties. The diplomatic solution was a cover story. He changed the display to show another mission, then another and another. Each one revealed a level of military capability that shocked the Council. The humans had been fighting shadow wars across the galaxy for years, always quietly, always without public acknowledgement. They had developed tactics and technologies specifically designed to counter more advanced civilizations. Earth has been at war with itself for most of its recorded history, Taiwan explained. We have refined the art of violence through thousands of years of practice. When we finally reached the stars, we found that most galactic civilizations had forgotten how to truly fight. You have energy shields and particle beams. Yes, but you fight according to rules and honor codes. Humanity fights to win. Ambassador Hana finally spoke up. I should mention that I am not simply a diplomat. I am Colonel Park's handler. My mission was to observe him and ensure his retirement remained genuine. Earth's government worried that our most decorated war hero might be compromised by foreign interests. She looked at LRA. No offense, Your Majesty, all offense taken, LRA said coldly. She turned to Taiwan. So this has all been a lie. Our marriage, your love for me? No, Taiwan said, and the hardness left his voice. He knelt beside her chair, taking her hands in his. Everything between us is real. I love you more than I have ever loved anything. I came to your empire seeking peace, and I found it in you. I wanted to leave my past behind forever. He glanced at the battle reports on the display. But I am still that person when I need to be, and right now your people need him. Prince Dorian laughed harshly. So you are a soldier, one soldier. What difference does that make against the entire Krell armada? Taiwan stood and pulled out his secure communicator. I am not one soldier. I am humanity's representative. And humanity has been watching this conflict with great interest. The Krell have never fought humans before. They do not know what we are capable of. He activated the communicator. This is Colonel Park. Authorization 77 Delta. Initiate Protocol Shepard. We have allies in need. The response came immediately. Protocol Shepard confirmed. Colonel Admiral Yuna reports the fleet is ready for immediate deployment. Jump coordinates. Taiwan looked at General Kane. Where is the Krell fleet currently positioned? Kane, still stunned, pulled up tactical displays. They are advancing on the Delver system. Our forces are falling back. We cannot hold them. Taiwan relayed the coordinates. Fleet is to emerge at these positions. Full combat spread. Rules of engagement are weapons free on Krell targets only. Protect all VIN assets. Fleet on. Understood, Colonel. Admiral Yuna sends her regards and says it is good to have you back. ETA is 2 hours. The connection ended. Taiwan turned to face the Council. In 2 hours the human expeditionary fleet will arrive. I am requesting permission to take tactical command of combined VIN and human Forces, I have fought the Krell before. In border skirmishes. They probably do not even remember. I know their strategies, I know how to beat them. Faunor 40, LRA looked at this man she thought she knew. He was a stranger wearing her husband's face, but he was also the same person who grew flowers and made her tea. Both things were true at once. If I grant this, she said slowly, will you promise me something, anything, when this is over? Will you come back to the gardens with me? Will you be the man I married again? Tywin's expression softened. I promise. The war will end, the soldier will retire again, and I will spend the rest of my days making you happy. LRA stood and addressed the council. Colonel Park is granted full tactical authority over all Vin military forces for the duration of this conflict. Commander Voss, you will coordinate with him. General Kane, provide him with everything he needs. We are going to show the Krell what happens when they threaten Earth's allies. Voss saluted Tywin properly for the first time. It will be an honor to serve under you, Colonel. Tywin returned the salute. Then he smiled, and this time it was his real smile. Let us go save your empire. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace exactly on schedule. 53 warships materialized in perfect formation around the Delver system. They were smaller than Krell or Vin vessels, built with utilitarian efficiency rather than elegant design. But there was something predatory about the way they moved, like sharks circling prey. Queen LRA watched from the command deck of the royal flagship. Tywin stood beside her, his eyes fixed on the tactical displays. He had transformed completely. The gentle Gardner was gone, replaced by military commander who radiated controlled lethality. He spoke in crisp sentences, issuing orders that were immediately obeyed. Admiral Yuna, this is Colonel Park, sitrep on fleet status. The holographic display showed a middle-aged human woman with iron-gray hair and sharp eyes. All ships ready for combat operations. Colonel, it has been too long. The crew missed you. Number 1, I missed them too, Tywin said with a slight smile, but let us save the reunion for after we deal with our guests. Current Krell position. General Kane pulled up the enemy fleet markers. They are advancing on our defensive line. 42 capital ships and over 100 support vessels. They outgun us significantly. Numbers are not everything, Tywin said. He began moving markers on the tactical display, repositioning both human and Vin forces with swift precision. The Krell rely on overwhelming firepower and shield superiority. They expect their enemies to engage in direct combat, slugging it out until one side breaks. We are not going to do that. Commander Voss leaned forward. What is your strategy, Colonel? Humans developed our combat doctrine, fighting each other, Tywin explained. We learned to compensate for technological disadvantages through tactics, deception, and psychological warfare. The Krell have never faced an opponent who fights dirty. On the main display, the Kree fleet detected the human ships. Their commander, Warlord Threx, opened a communication channel. His reptilian face showed amusement. So the Vin have called for help from primitives, humans. I have studied your species. You barely have functional shields. Your weapons are kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. You are centuries behind us. Tywin smiled politely. Warlord Threx, I am Colonel Park, Tywin of the Terran Defense Coalition. I am offering you one opportunity to withdraw. Peacefully, Threx laughed a harsh, rasping sound. The primitive offers me mercy. I will enjoy destroying your pathetic fleet and then finishing the Vin. I tried, Tywin said and closed the channel. He turned to Admiral Yuna. All ships engage pattern Delta 7. Show them what humanity learned in our world. Wars, what followed shocked everyone. Except the humans. The Terran fleet split into small groups and attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. Instead of engaging in direct combat, they launched waves of missiles that the Krell shields easily deflected. But the missiles were not meant to penetrate. They were meant to blind. Electromagnetic pulse warheads detonated across the battlefield, disrupting Krell sensors. Nuclear-tipped torpedoes exploded not against shields but near them, creating radiation interference. The Krell found themselves fighting in a fog of their own making, unable to get clear targeting solutions. Then the real attack began. Human ships dove in close, too close for the Krell's massive energy cannons to track effectively. They fired rail guns that punched through shields. Using pure kinetic force, they launched boarding pods that attached to Krell hulls like parasites. They deployed electronic warfare systems that hijacked enemy communications. This is not how warfare is conducted, Prince Dorian exclaimed, watching in horror as a human destroyer used a Krell battleship as cover while firing on another Krell vessel. This is exactly how warfare is conducted when you are fighting to survive, Tywin said calmly. The Krell expected honor and rules. Humanity brings victory. A smaller display showed human special forces boarding a Krell command ship led by an operative named Hun. They moved through the corridors with terrifying efficiency. They used the ship's own atmospheric systems against the crew, flooding sections with sleeping gas. They hacked into the ship's computers and locked down entire decks. Within 20 minutes they had captured the bridge and taken 300 Krell prisoners. Warlord Threx tried to regain control of the battle. He ordered his fleet to fall back and regroup to get distance from the human ships, but Tywin had anticipated this. The Vin fleet positioned exactly where he had ordered them, cut off the Krell retreat, caught between two forces and unable to use their superior range advantage. The Krell began to panic. Target their command ship, Tywin ordered. Disable engines only. I want Threx alive. Human and Vin fleets focused fire on the Krell flagship. Its shields held for a time, but concentrated railgun fire eventually overwhelmed them. Precisely targeted strikes disabled the ship's propulsion systems, leaving it dead in space. Just then another ship emerged from hyperspace. It was smaller than a warship marked with Earth research insignia. A young woman's face appeared on the communication channel, looking excited and slightly nervous. Tywin, sorry I am late. Traffic was terrible in the Kepler sector. Tywin's stern expression cracked into a genuine smile. Jai Wu, I told you to stay safely in Earth space and miss my big brother's triumphant return to military service. No chance, Ju grinned. Besides, I brought presents. Dr. Sun Min and I developed something fun in the lab. Jai Wu, Tywin said warningly. Quantum disruptors. They neutralize shield technology. Completely. Want to test them, General? Kane looked at Tywin in disbelief. Unfortunately, yes, Tywin said, but there was affection in his voice. Gay. Wu, this is an active combat zone, which is why I am staying way back here. But I can broadcast the disruptor field across the entire battlefield. 1. Button press and all the Krello shields go down. Just say the word 1 Taiwan. Considered for a moment, then opened a channel to Warlord Threx. I am giving you one more chance to surrender. Fleet is surrounded and disabled. Further resistance is pointless. Threx's face was twisted with rage and disbelief. How did primitives defeat us? Because you assume technology makes you superior, Taiwan said, but war is not about having the best weapons. It is about knowing how to use what you have. Humanity has fought itself for thousands of years. We have refined violence into an art form. We know every dirty trick, every tactical advantage, every way to turn strength into weakness. He paused. Now, surrender or I will let my sister demonstrate her new toy. For a long moment Threx said nothing, then slowly he lowered his head. I surrender. The Krello fleet surrenders. Cheers erupted. Across the Vine command deck, officers embraced each other. Commander Voss saluted Taiwan with tears in his eyes. You did it, Colonel, you saved us. But Taiwan did not celebrate. He simply nodded and began issuing orders for securing prisoners and treating wounded. On both sides, LRA watched him work, seeing both the stranger and her husband in the same person. Admiral Yuna sent a message. Good work, Colonel. The fleet stands ready for further orders. Thank you, Admiral. Tell the crew they performed perfectly, and tell them I hope this is the last time I need to ask them to fight. We both know it probably will not be, Yuna said, but we will be ready when you call. The connection ended. Taiwan turned to LRA. Your empire is safe. The Krello will not threaten you again. You really are a soldier, she said softly. I really was, he corrected. I am still a gardener who loves you, but yes, when necessary I can be this too. LRA did not know if she should kiss him or fear him. The victory celebrations lasted 3 days across the Vin Empire. Cities lit up with fireworks and festivals. Citizens cheered in the streets, praising their queen and the mysterious human who had saved them. But in the palace, the mood was more complicated. Warlord Threx sat in a detention cell surrounded by guards. He had demanded to meet the human commander who defeated him. Taiwan agreed to the meeting, though Commander Voss insisted on heavy security. The Krell warlord looked diminished without his armor and weapons, but his eyes still burned with intelligence and pride. You are the one called Colonel Park. I am, Taiwan said. I do not understand, Threx said, frustration clear in his voice. My intelligence report said humans were barely capable of space travel, that your military was insignificant. How did you defeat me? Your intelligence was correct, Taiwan replied. Humanity is new to the stars. Our technology is less advanced than yours. But we have something you lack. What? Experience with being weak. The Krello have been powerful for so long that you forgot how the weak must fight to survive. Humanity spent 10,000 years being threatened by predators, disease, starvation, and each other. We learned to compensate for every disadvantage. We learned to think creatively. We learned that the clever survive when the strong do not. Threx stared at him for a long moment. It was, Taiwan agreed. Do not make it again. Tell your people what happened. Here, tell them that humans protect their allies with everything they have. Perhaps this will prevent future conflicts. After the meeting, Tywin found Commander Voss waiting outside. The Vin officer saluted crisply. "Colonel, I owe you an apology. I doubted you from the beginning. I thought you were a threat to the Queen. I was wrong." "You were doing your duty," Tywin said. "Protecting your ruler from potential threats is exactly what you should do. You were not wrong to be suspicious." Voss smiled slightly. "Your Majesty is fortunate to have you." "We all are, Voss, but not everyone felt grateful." Prince Dorian had been notably absent from the celebrations. When he finally appeared, it was in Tywin's private chambers in the palace. The Vin noble held a small vial of clear liquid. "You have ruined everything," Dorian hissed. "I was positioning myself to lead the Empire after Elros' inevitable failure, but now you have made her a hero. She will rule for decades." Tywin looked at the vial, recognizing poison. "Put that away, Prince Dorian. This will not go the way you hope. You are alone and unarmed. I will tell everyone you died from the stress of battle, a tragic heart failure." The door opened. "Commander." Voss stepped in with 4 guards. "I had a feeling you might try something like this, Prince. You are under arrest for attempted murder." Dorian was dragged away, screaming threats and insults. Voss turned to Tywin. "I told you we protect our own now, and you are one of ours." That evening, Tywin and Ellaria walked through the royal gardens together. The flowers were blooming beautifully, having been maintained by servants in his absence, but Tywin knelt to check each plant personally, making small adjustments and pulling weeds. "You really do love this work," Ellaria observed. "I do," he said. "It is peaceful, creative, living things respond to care and patience. It is the opposite of war." Ellaria sat on a bench, watching him work. "I have been thinking about everything that happened, about who you are." Tywin paused, waiting. "You lied to me," she said softly. "For 2 years, you let me believe you were someone you were not." "No," he said, turning to face her. "I never lied. That quiet man who loves gardens and art, that is who I am now. The soldier was who I had to be. Both are real, both are me, but you hid such an important part of yourself." "I did," he admitted. "Because I was afraid. I was afraid that if you knew I was a soldier, you would see only violence. You would think I glorified war, but I hate war." Ellaria spent 15 years fighting because I believed it was necessary to protect people. Then I realized I was tired of being necessary that way. I wanted to create instead of destroy. I wanted to love instead of kill." He sat beside her on the bench. "When I met you, I saw a chance at the life I had always wanted. Peace, beauty, simple joys. I did not hide my past out of deception. I hid it because I desperately wanted it to stay in the past." "And now?" she asked. "Now it is in the past again," he said. "The war is over. The soldier can retire once more." But before Ellaria could respond, Ambassador Hana arrived with another human. This was Dr. Sung Min, middle-aged man in civilian clothes, bearing the insignia of Earth's scientific corps. "Colonel Park Sung Min said, bowing slightly, "I bring greetings from Earth's government and a request." Tywin and LT Unk and GT's expression became guarded. "What request?" The Terran Council has seen what you accomplished here, how you coordinated human and alien forces, how you defeated a superior enemy with minimal casualties. They want you to return to Earth and lead a new initiative." "What initiative?" Ellaria asked. though she already feared the answer. Expansion. Sun Min said, the victory here proved that humanity can compete with advanced civilizations. The Council wants to establish a human sphere of influence across this sector. They need someone with your experience to lead it. No, Taewon said immediately. Colonel, this is an opportunity for humanity to become a major galactic power, I said. No, Taewon repeated, his voice hard. I retired, I found peace, I am not returning to military service. Sunung looked disappointed but not surprised. I expected this answer, but I had to ask. The Council will be disappointed. You are a hero to our people. After the doctor left, LRA took Taewon and LT Unk and GT's hand. You really chose me over your career, over your people's ambitions. My people do not need me to become a galactic power, Taewon said. They will do fine on their own, but you are the most important thing in my life. This is where I belong. That night they addressed both empires in a joint broadcast. LRA announced a formal alliance between the VIN and humanity, trade agreements, technology exchanges, and mutual defense pacts were established. The two civilizations would grow together, learning from each other as they walked back through the palace. Afterward, LRA asked the question that had been bothering her. Are all humans as dangerous as you? Taewon smiled. Sadly, honestly, we're all far more dangerous. Every human child studies the history of our wars. We know 100 ways to kill and 1,000 ways to survive. We are the descendants of persistent hunters who ran prey to exhaustion across continents. We are the species that looked at every challenge and found a way to overcome it. Through stubbornness and creativity, he paused at the entrance to the gardens. But we also choose not to be dangerous. Most of the time, we choose to create music and art. We choose to grow flowers and write poetry. We choose love over hate, peace over war when we can. That choice is what makes us human, not our capacity for violence, but our capacity to restrain it. LRA thought about this. So you are a gardener who can become a soldier when needed. I'm a soldier who chooses to be a gardener, Taewon corrected, because the war I fight now is against my own violent nature, and that is a war I prefer. They spent the rest of the evening in the gardens. Taewon tended his flowers while LRA read poetry aloud. To anyone watching, they looked like a normal couple enjoying a quiet night. The Vin court, now aware of who Taewon really was, watched from a respectful distance. They understood that the humble man kneeling in the dirt could rain fire across the stars if he chose, but he chose flowers instead. He chose peace, he chose love, and in choosing these things while having the power to choose otherwise, he proved himself worthy of them. The empire was safe. The soldier had retired again, and in the royal gardens of Valoria Prime, humanity's most dangerous warrior planted seeds and watched them grow, content to create life instead of taking it. The galaxy had learned what humans could do when protecting those they loved. Now it would learn what they could do when they chose peace instead.